Good morning. It is Tuesday, March the 19th, and this is The Drill. And thank you very much. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States of America today, because I'm the only one that makes the presumption for the status quo, speaking to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. So one of the things that I wanted to say about I'm critical of a lot of right-wing pundits for a couple of reasons. Number one, we wouldn't have socialism in this country if conservatives knew what they were doing. If conservatives were competent people, if we didn't have rhinos, we wouldn't have socialists. And one of the big mistakes that is made by the Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity is the fact that they keep talking as though socialism is sort of on the doorstep. It's right on the edge. And what they fail to realize and fail to notice with their own eyes is how much socialism has affected our culture already over the past, because the socialists have been working on our culture since the 60s. And so over that period of time, those decades, they've made a lot of strides and changed our society and changed our culture in some very fundamental ways, and that the Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity don't even realize it. One of the ways in which they have and I was going to say, the other thing is, one of the things that got me interested in where I started getting critical of Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh was both of those guys have huge audiences. Rush Limbaugh's got, I think, 2 million people that he speaks to each and every day. And Sean Hannity has quite a number of folks that he speaks to on the radio, and then there's those that watch his television show. So they cover a lot of ground, so to speak, but they seem to have very little cultural influence, particularly Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh has certain mannerisms, verbal mannerisms that he uses, little sayings and whatnot, yet I never, ever hear anybody over it. And I've been listening to Rush Limbaugh since 1989, when I came back from Germany, when I was stationed in Germany, and I came back to and was stationed in Texas. And I've never heard anybody act like or talk like Rush Limbaugh. He has no cultural influence whatsoever. And I noticed that, and I was thinking to myself, why? And so that's what started kind of my odyssey of critiquing the content. As Rush Limbaugh complains that he gets a lot of criticism and critiques from people, usually on the left, but most of the time they critique his style. Either the way he runs his show or the way he looks or something of that nature, rather than critiquing the content. One of the ways you can know that somebody is ineffective, again, is if they're failing to have influence. Ayn Rand was another one, where she had brilliant ideas. If you read Ayn Rand's particular nonfiction work, you can see the brilliance of the woman, but she didn't seem to have much of she had a very cult-like following. And so that tells me there's a problem there somewhere, that there's got to be contradictions, that the people involved are contradicting themselves in certain ways, and so therefore they're not being taken seriously. In the case of Ayn Rand, it was her creation of objectivism that doomed her influence, her ability to influence, because my theory is that if you want to have maximum influence in this world, then you have to have maximum credibility, and for maximum credibility, you need to have maximum integrity. And integrity means, first and foremost, consistency. One of the things that Rush Limbaugh does that's a problem is that he has his show opens with a rock and roll, the opening segments or the prelude or whatever of a rock and roll tune. Rock and roll music, jazz music, blues music, fine music, but it's all countercultural. That's the music of the hippies of the 60s. It's not the music of conservatives or conservatism. So you have a contradiction right there. Furthermore, The band that he's choosing to use as his theme song, the Pretenders, Chrissie Hynde is the lead singer. She hates the United States of America. She hates this country. Okay. I read a story about her where she went in for an interview somewhere and there was an American flag. It was either on the, let's say on the wall, and she threw a temper tantrum and he demanded that American flag be removed. And so, again, this is a contradiction. If you're going to be a conservative and you're going to present yourself as patriotic, as loving your country, you can't have the Pretenders as you use a Pretenders song as your theme song and not present yourself to your audience as a contradiction and make your audience think, oh, well, he's just kidding. I don't have to take this guy seriously. Sean Hannity's a little bit better on that score in that his theme song is country music. So he doesn't have the contradiction there. But he contradicts himself in other ways. One of the most fundamental is that Sean Hannity likes to tell people that they need to have integrity, that they need to, he only wants you to act with integrity when it comes to being conservative. He doesn't want you to have integrity if you're a libertarian or if you're an independent. I don't know how many times when it comes crunch time, when it comes election time, and the choice is between a rhino like George W. Bush and the Democrat. Sean Hannity's literally told people to abandon their principles, abandon your principles, and vote the Republican because we just can't have Al Gore as President of the United States. And again, that's contradictory. So people aren't necessarily going to tune him out, but they're not going to take him seriously either. You're not going to see a lot of cultural evidence of Sean Hannity's show. You're not going to meet people that are going to talk the way he does or say quote him, that type of thing. One of the big things that the right forgets or has missed, and again in terms of saying that the socialism is nigh, is the church. One of the biggest changes I've seen in my lifetime since the 60s is the churches going from being solidly conservative, particularly the Catholic Church, to now being reliably liberal/socialist. The socialists have taken over the Catholic Church. They have taken over a lot of Protestant, maybe all of the Protestant churches. And what these churches are becoming is not houses of worship and congregations of the faithful. They are becoming socialist clubhouses. We have a church here in Pasadena, California. It's called All Saints, and I think it's a Methodist Episcopal, supposedly. That's the name they put on it. But it's a socialist clubhouse. All they want to do is talk about politics. They want to talk about social justice and things of that nature. Not your immortal soul. They don't want to deal with that or matters of eternity. And you see the same thing in the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church, it used to be about, and churches were about eternity. Where are you going to spend eternity and dealing with issues of eternity? And the way the Catholic Church did that was by communicating their services in Latin. Latin is a very old language. Nobody uses it much anymore, except for lawyers and whatnot. But the Catholic Church would have their services in Latin, and again, to communicate that the idea that the world doesn't begin or end with me. Okay, it didn't begin when I was born, and it's not going to end when I die. The world goes on and on. And so that's an excellent way in keeping the traditions, in keeping, and one of the traditions being doing the Mass in Latin communicates that sense of the eternal, the solemnity, the weight. You know, we're talking about the biggest issues in the universe are dealt with by religions and churches. So by changing that, and the churches have come under attack, starting with the Catholic Church. And the people, what's been amazing about it is not that they've come under attack, because you expect that from the left. The left has always been atheistic. They say that the religion is the opiate of the masses. And so in order to get the masses to wake up, you have to break their habit of worshiping Jesus Christ and worshiping God. So, and they have succeeded in large part by doing that, in large part by attacking the church and suggesting that churches are filled not with worshipers, but with and sinners, because we are all sinners in the eyes of the Lord, and but not with sinners, but with hypocrites. It's one of the big weapons that the left likes to use, is the weapon of hypocrisy, and to suggest that the church has standards, which they did, less so today, but they still have certain standards, and to go out and point out how the faithful have not been able to keep up or meet those standards, and suggest that everybody who's religious must be a hypocrite. And that's one of the things that turned me off. I bought into that as a couple of decades ago, and at one point I considered myself not religious but spiritual. And that's what you'll get from a lot of people on the left. Well, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. Well, so are the Druids, so are Wiccans, so are other types of people that are not Christian and are that need to repent or face eternity in hell. So you then get away from all of the things that make Christianity what it is, and make it separate and distinct and unique from other religious practices, whether it's Islam or Judaism or Wiccan, or, for that matter, devil worship. So that is going on right now. And the left has recognized the power of the churches, have gone ahead, and there's people that are lefties that become clergy members, knowing that once they get the title of minister or father or monsignor or whatever, that can be an effective shield and weapon, and they can promote socialist ideals while at the same time and appear, as a matter of fact, to be having God's blessing in promoting those socialist practices. We have a pope that has a tendency to be on the socialist side of things. I'm surprised the Catholic Church hasn't gone ahead and okayed abortion by now, because they've moved so far left on everything else. So, again, Rush Limbaugh is patriotic, Sean Hannity's patriotic, all of the pundits are patriotic. They love their country and they mean well, but that isn't good enough. They have to do better. They have to quit giving credibility to arbitrary claims and arbitrary questions, and they have to understand that they need to make the presumption for the status quo and stand their ground. So until they do that, they're going to cease to be effective, and this country is going to continue its slide to the left. So that brings us to the conclusion of another episode of The Drill, and until next time, thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.